My name is Avery Collins. I'm 34 years old, and until recently, I thought I was in a stable, grown-up relationship. Last night was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. Nothing fancy, just the same restaurant where he once told me I was the safest place he'd ever landed. I even wore the blue dress he said made me look grounded. I remember that word because it always felt like a compliment and a warning at the same time. He ordered his usual pasta, barely touched it. His phone stayed in his hand the entire time, tilted just slightly away from me. Not obvious enough to accuse, just enough to notice. I told myself I was being paranoid. Couples go through dry spells. Stress happens. Creative people retreat into themselves sometimes. I'd made 1,000 excuses for him before. One more would have been easy. But then he put the phone face down and looked at me like someone preparing to deliver bad news they'd already justified to themselves. "Avery," he said, calm, too calm. "I need to tell you something." I didn't interrupt. That's important. I gave him space. I've been seeing Maya again for about 3 months. Maya, his ex-girlfriend, a musician. The one who talked about authenticity while borrowing money for guitar strings. The one who always needed just a little more time before things took off. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I felt cold, like someone had turned down the temperature inside my chest. "How long?" I asked, even though he'd already told me. 3 months. He said it like a statistic. "She understands me in a way you never really did," he continued. "We connect creatively, emotionally." Creatively. That word again. What hurt wasn't the affair, it was the tone. No shame, no apology, just clarity. Like he was explaining a career move. I nodded. "Are you happy?" That seemed to throw him. He hesitated, then smiled, a small, almost relieved smile. "Yes." I reached into my bag and felt the edge of the gift I'd brought him. A leather-bound notebook he'd been eyeing online. He liked to write lyrics he never finished. I'd planned to tell him I believed in him. Again. "I hope it works out," I said. He stared at me like I'd failed a test. "You're not upset?" "I am," I said quietly. "I'm just not surprised." Because here's the thing I hadn't told him. 3 weeks earlier, I'd found a hotel charge on our shared card. One night. Double occupancy. Booked under his name. When I called to dispute it, the clerk confirmed the guest. Him. And Maya. That was the moment suspicion became certainty. I work in financial operations. I live in spreadsheets. I understand patterns. And I understand preparation. So while he thought I was oblivious, I was planning. I paid the bill that night, drove us home, slept in the guest room while he whispered into his phone in a voice he hadn't used with me in months. This morning, he acted like everything was still negotiable. He made coffee, asked if we could talk this through like adults, even suggested therapy. As if therapy could explain away 3 months of lies. I told him I respected his honesty, that I hoped Maya could give him what he was looking for. Then I went to work. He texted me at lunch. "Maybe this space will be good for us. We've felt more like roommates lately." I didn't reply. Because roommates don't subsidize each other's dreams. And partners don't disappear emotionally while keeping the financial benefits intact. He thinks this is a pause. He thinks I'll cool down. What he doesn't know is that I've already stopped reacting. And when someone like me stops reacting, it's not because I don't care. It's because I've moved into planning mode. When I got to the office, my hands were steady. That's the part that scares people the most when they hear my story later. How calm I was, like I was already over it. But calm isn't the same as healed. Calm is what happens when your heartbreak has been quietly building a case file for weeks. At 9:12 a.m., I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and stared at a spreadsheet I'd been updating for 4 years. Not because I'm obsessive, because I'm responsible. Because every time he said, "Just give me 1 more month," I needed to know whether 1 more month meant skipping groceries or dipping into savings. I used to call it our budget. Now it looked more like evidence. His name is Ethan Parker. He's charming when he wants to be. The kind of man who can make a barista laugh, make strangers listen, make a room tilt toward him without even trying. For a long time, I thought that was a gift. Now I see it's also a weapon. Ethan doesn't like numbers. He calls them cold. He likes feelings, big ideas, late-night talks about purpose, passion, identity. So I became the one who handled the unromantic stuff. The rent, the insurance, the tiny emergencies that somehow happened every month. And because I loved him, I didn't keep score. I kept us afloat. 4 years ago, Ethan quit his steady job because he said it was killing his creativity. He wanted to build something of his own. A studio, a brand, a creative career that sounded beautiful in theory and expensive in reality. I supported him, not just emotionally, financially. I told myself it was temporary, that I was investing in our future. But in the quiet corners of my mind, I knew the truth. Our future was being funded entirely by my present. My salary is $95,000 a year. It's not billionaire money, but it's stable, predictable, the kind of income banks respect. Ethan's creative work? Not predictable, not stable, not respected by anyone holding a clipboard in a loan office. So when he wanted a studio space to focus, guess whose credit score got him through the door? Mine. $1,800 a month in rent for a small studio with peeling paint and natural light that he said made him feel alive. Then the equipment, the financing for the computer setup, recording gear, editing software, the monthly subscription stack that never ended. $847 a month. Then there were supplies, the little necessary purchases, cables, external drives, mic stands, soundproofing foam, $200 here, $300 there. It was always not that much until the end of the month when everything was suddenly a lot. And health insurance. Ethan's premium was $385 a month. He told me it made him feel cared for. I didn't realize cared for was starting to sound a lot like maintained. The part I never said out loud? His business, his passion, operated at a monthly loss, about $2,200 every single month. And I covered it without complaint because love doesn't always feel like flowers and trips. Sometimes love feels like a spreadsheet and a quiet sigh while you move money from savings into checking. I remembered nights I stayed awake, listening to Ethan pace the apartment, upset because a client didn't get his vision. I remembered mornings when he didn't want to talk because the world is too noisy. And I remembered how often I swallowed my own needs because Ethan's dreams always sounded more fragile than mine. He wasn't lazy, that's the thing, he worked. But his work didn't pay bills. And I kept thinking that if I just believed harder, if I just supported more, it would eventually become something real. Now, with his confession sitting in my chest like a stone, the numbers looked different. Not supportive, exploitative. At 10:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. Ethan. I let it ring 3 times before I answered. His voice was warm, like he'd already decided this was going to be okay. Hey, he said, are you doing all right? I stared out my office window at the street below. People walking, living, choosing, free. I'm at work, I said. Right. I wanted to check in. I know last night was heavy. Heavy, like he'd dropped a dumbbell on my chest and wanted credit for acknowledging the bruise. I didn't say anything. He rushed to fill the silence. Avery, I don't want you to think this means I don't love you. I laughed once, softly, because the absurdity slipped out before I could catch it. Ethan, I said, you're dating your ex. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. He exhaled dramatically, like I was the difficult one. It's complicated, he said. You and I have history, a foundation. But Maya, she understands that creative part of me. She inspires me. When I'm with her, I feel alive. Alive. I thought about the studio rent payment that came out every first of the month. Alive looked a lot like autopay. So what happens now? I asked. A pause. Then, in that careful voice people use when they're trying to steer you toward an outcome they already picked, I think maybe we should take things slow, he said. We don't have to make any sudden decisions. We can do therapy. We can... We? Avery, he said gently, I don't want to lose you. And there it was. Not remorse. Not accountability. Fear of losing the benefits. Because Ethan didn't say, I'm sorry. He said, I don't want to lose you. As if I was a resource. As if I was the stable platform he could jump back onto if Maya's creative inspiration didn't work out. I looked at my computer screen again. At the neat rows, the clean columns, the total cost of loving him. Then I asked him a question so quiet he almost didn't hear it. Ethan, when you imagined telling me this, what did you think I would do? He hesitated. I thought you'd be upset. And then? He tried to laugh, like it was obvious. And then we'd talk, like adults, we'd figure it out. Figure it out. Meaning, I'd eventually accept it. I'd stay. I'd keep paying. I'd keep being the foundation while he chased electricity somewhere else. My throat tightened, but my voice stayed steady. Okay, I said, thanks for checking in. That threw him. That's it? Yes. Avery, don't shut down on me. I'm not shutting down, I said. I'm thinking. He went quiet. Then, softer. Can you promise you won't do anything drastic? There it was again. Not I won't hurt you anymore. Not how can I make this right. Just don't mess up my safety net. I didn't answer his question. I ended the call politely. And then I opened a new tab and typed one word into the search bar. Lawyer. By noon, I had an appointment. Not because I wanted revenge, Because I wanted the truth to stop costing me money. I left work early and drove across town to a small office with beige walls and a receptionist who didn't smile. The kind of place where emotions don't matter, only documents do. The attorney's name was Marissa Hale. She looked at me like she'd seen this story 1,000 times. And maybe she had. She slid a legal pad toward me. "Tell me what you want," she said. I didn't hesitate. "I want out," I said. Her pen paused. "Out of the relationship?" "Out of everything," I corrected. "The financial ties, the co-signing, the accounts, all of it." Marissa nodded once, like that was the only language that mattered. "Do you have documentation?" she asked. I opened my bag and pulled out a folder. Hotel receipt, lease agreements, loan statements, insurance policies, a full breakdown of my support. Marissa's eyebrows lifted slightly when she saw how organized it was. "You've been preparing," she said. I swallowed. "Not for this," I lied. But the truth was, I had been. Because deep down, I think I'd always known Ethan's love was conditional. As long as I was useful. Marissa tapped the papers. "Okay," she said. "Then we start with a checklist." And when she said that, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, not joy, something sharper. A sense of control returning to my hands. "First," she said, "we remove you from voluntary obligations. Anything with your name attached that you can legally exit, we exit, step by step." I nodded, and for the first time since Ethan's confession, my heart didn't feel like it was falling. It felt like it was bracing. Because the moment you stop being someone's safety net, they stop treating you like home. They start treating you like a threat. Marissa warned me about the timing. "Once you start," she said, folding her hands neatly on the desk, "things move fast. People don't realize how much of their stability is borrowed until the lender steps back." I understood that language. Borrowed. That's what my love had become, an unsecured loan Ethan never planned to repay. Tuesday morning, I arrived at the office early with coffee I didn't finish and a checklist printed in black and white. No emotion, no commentary, just steps. Step 1 was the studio lease. At 8:07 a.m., I called the landlord. Her name is Mrs. Chen, mid-60s, polite, efficient. She'd always liked me, probably because I was the one who never missed a payment. "Avery," she said warmly, "is everything all right?" "Yes," I replied. "I need to talk about removing myself as guarantor on the studio lease." There was a pause. "Oh," she said carefully. "Ethan mentioned you two were having some difficulties." "Of course he did." "The lease is in both your names through next year," she continued. "To remove you, Ethan would need to requalify on his own or find a new co-signer." "That's fine," I said. "Please notify him of the requirement." She sighed softly. "I'm sorry," she said. "I really am." I thanked her and hung up. Step 2, equipment financing. Premier Equipment Solutions answered on the second ring. Their representative sounded young and overly cheerful. "Miss Collins, once your income is removed as backup, Mr. Parker's loan will need to be reassessed based on his individual revenue." "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already knew. "It could affect the terms," she said, "including potential acceleration if he no longer qualifies." Acceleration. Repossession, dressed up in corporate language. Step 3, the bank. I walked in during my lunch break. Same teller I'd seen for years. She recognized me immediately. "Joint savings account?" she asked gently. "Yes," I said. "Close it." "Balance, $15,000. "Would you like to leave any funds for Mr. Parker?" she asked. "No," I said. "Thank you." Step 4, insurance. Ethan's health coverage would end the day we formally separated our finances. Step 5, the gallery he used occasionally for showcases. I'd been guaranteeing the booth fees. Not anymore. By 2 p.m., every thread tying my stability to Ethan's dreams had been loosened. Not cut, loosened. I wasn't burning anything down. I was simply stepping away. At 3:18 p.m., my phone rang. "Ethan," I answered. "What did you do?" he asked, not even pretending to ease into it. "Hi to you too," I said. "Avery," his voice was tight now. "Mrs. Chen just called me. She said something about requalifying. What's going on?" I removed myself as guarantor. Silence. Then, "You can't just do that." "I can," I said, and I did. "This is insane," he snapped. "You're overreacting. We haven't even decided anything yet." I leaned back in my chair. "You decided when you started sleeping with Maya." "That's not fair." "What's not fair," I replied calmly, "is expecting me to keep funding your life while you explore connections with other people." He exhaled sharply. "Maya is freaking out," he said. "The equipment company called. They're talking about reassessing my loan." "That's how loans work," I said. "This is my livelihood, Avery." I almost laughed. "This was your livelihood," I corrected. "It was my responsibility. Now it's yours." "You're doing this to punish me." "No," I said. "I'm doing this because we're not partners anymore." "But we're not even broken up." We are, I said quietly. You just didn't realize it yet. He went silent. I could hear him breathing on the other end, trying to recalibrate. You're really serious, he said finally. Yes. You're going to let them take my equipment? That's between you and your lender. You know I can't cover that alone. I closed my eyes for a second. This was the moment he expected me to cave, to soften, to rescue. I know, I said. And I meant it. He hung up without saying goodbye. At work the next day, I kept my head down. Emails, meetings, normal life. But underneath it all, I felt the tension humming. At 11:42 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, Ethan was crying. Full, broken sobs. Avery, he said, voice cracking. They're talking about repossessing everything. The computer, the equipment, everything. I'm sorry, I said. And I was. But sorry doesn't mean responsible. Maya is trying to figure something out, he continued. She's calling people, friends, her parents. She says she'll help. That's good, I said. She doesn't have the money, he snapped. She's a musician, Avery. You know that. Yes, I said, I do. He went quiet again. Are you really okay with this? He asked finally. I thought about the nights I stayed up worrying about his deadlines. The weekends I skipped seeing friends because he needed help setting up. The vacations we never took because there was always another expense. I'm okay with not being used, I said. Then I hung up. That afternoon, Marissa called me. They're moving quickly, she said. Your documentation was clean. You're fully removed from all voluntary obligations. Thank you, I said. There will be fallout, she warned. I know. And there was. By Thursday, Ethan's equipment was flagged for repossession. By Friday, the studio lease was officially in jeopardy. Mrs. Chen called me again. He came by today, she said quietly. He was very upset. He mentioned his girlfriend might help. She hesitated. I don't think she understands what's required, Mrs. Chen added diplomatically. I thanked her and ended the call. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the one I'd already started planning to leave, and listened to the silence. No pacing, no anxious monologues, no whispered calls in the other room. Just me, and the strange realization that the moment I stopped carrying his weight, the relationship collapsed under its own. I didn't expect to meet Maya face to face. Not like that. It was Friday afternoon when the receptionist buzzed my office line and said carefully, "A woman named Maya Reynolds is here to see you. She says it's important." For a second, I just stared at my screen. So this was happening. Send her up, I said. A minute later, she walked in carrying a canvas tote bag that looked intentionally worn, like distress was part of the aesthetic. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot, strands falling just so. She smelled faintly of patchouli and coffee. She smiled like we were about to have a reasonable conversation between women. Avery, she said softly, thank you for seeing me. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. You have 5 minutes. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. She sat anyway. I just want to say first, she began, hands folded dramatically in her lap, that I never meant to hurt you. I let the silence stretch. She continued, Ethan and we didn't plan this. It just happened. Sometimes connections are bigger than timing. 3 months, I said. That's not timing. That's a decision. Her jaw tightened. Look, she said, I know you're upset. Anyone would be. But what you're doing right now, it's extreme. I leaned back. What exactly am I doing? You're pulling the rug out from under him, she said. You know he can't survive without that studio. His work, his identity, it's all tied to it. I nodded slowly. And whose fault is that? She frowned. This isn't about fault. It's about compassion. There it was. Compassion. The word people use when they want access to something that isn't theirs. I'm asking you, she said gently, leaning forward now, to reconsider. Maybe there's a middle ground. You're clearly successful. You have stability. Maybe you can keep helping him with the business side while we figure things out. I stared at her. Are you asking me to fund your relationship? I asked. She flinched. No, God, no. I'm asking you to support an artist. Ethan just happens to be with me now. I laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly. Just once. Let me make sure I understand, I said. You're sleeping with my boyfriend, and you want me to keep paying for his life so you can inspire him. Her face flushed. You're being reductive. No, I said calmly. I'm being precise. She stood up suddenly, pacing a few steps like this was a performance she needed momentum for. You never really understood him, she snapped. You saw his work as numbers. Profit and loss. Deadlines. You never saw his soul. I opened a drawer and pulled out a printed spreadsheet. You want to talk about his soul? I asked. Let's talk about what it costs. I slid the paper across the desk. She looked down, confused. Studio rent, I read aloud. $1,800 a month. Equipment financing. $847. Supplies, average $250. Insurance, $385. She swallowed. In the last 2 years, I continued, Ethan made $18,000 from his work. His expenses were $67,000. I looked up at her. That's a $49,000 loss, I said. Paid by me. She stared at the numbers like they were written in another language. It's not about money, she said weakly. It is, I replied, because passion still needs electricity and rent and insurance. She crossed her arms defensively. You think you're better than him because you have a paycheck. No, I said. I think adults pay their own bills. Her voice shook now. You're punishing him because he chose me. I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm just not participating anymore. She looked at me for a long moment, then scoffed. You're cold, she said. I can see why he needed something else. I met her gaze without blinking. And you're entitled, I said. I can see why he gravitated toward you. She grabbed her bag. You're destroying his life, she said. I stood. No, I said. I stopped financing it. She left without another word. An hour later, Ethan called. Furious. Maya said you were impossible, he said. She was trying to find a solution. What solution, I asked. Where I pay your bills and she gets the credit? You didn't have to humiliate her. I didn't humiliate anyone, I said. I told the truth. He went quiet. Then quieter. She's scared, Avery. So am I replied. The difference is, I didn't create this mess. That weekend, the equipment was repossessed. Monday morning, the studio door was locked. And by Wednesday, Maya stopped answering Ethan's calls. Funny how artistic connection fades when there's nothing left to stand on. The repossession happened on a Monday. Ethan didn't tell me at first. I heard it from Mrs. Chen. She called mid-morning, her voice careful in the way people get when they're delivering bad news they didn't cause but still feel responsible for. Avery, she said, the equipment company came early today. They had paperwork. They were very efficient. I closed my eyes. So it's done, I said. Yes, she replied softly. He was there when they arrived. I pictured it instantly. Ethan standing in the middle of the studio, hands in his hair, trying to explain his vision to men who measured value in serial numbers and signatures. Passion doesn't mean much to people with clipboards. Mrs. Chen hesitated before continuing. He asked if there was any way to delay the lease requirement. I told him no. Without a guarantor or proof of income, the space has to be vacated by Friday. Thank you for letting me know, I said. After I hung up, I sat still for a long time. Not triumphant, not relieved, just aware. This was the moment everything tipped from denial into reality. Ethan called that night. His voice was hollow. They took everything, he said. The computer, the recording gear, even the speakers. I know, I said. I didn't even get to back everything up, he added, like that was the cruelest part. I almost asked if he wanted me to feel guilty. Instead, I said nothing. I don't know what to do, he whispered. Maya says she needs space. She's overwhelmed. There it was. The first crack. The muse stepping back when the mess got real. She says the stress is blocking her creativity, he continued, that she didn't sign up for this level of instability. I closed my eyes again. She didn't sign up for it, I repeated. Neither did I. She was supposed to help, he said, voice breaking. She said we'd figure it out together. I leaned back against my couch. Ethan, I said gently, you confused emotional excitement with infrastructure. He didn't respond. By Wednesday, Maya was gone. She left a note, according to Ethan. Something vague about needing to protect her energy and focus on her music. She moved back in with her parents. By Friday, Ethan lost the studio. He sent me photos. Bare walls, dusty light, a single forgotten extension cord on the floor like evidence of something abandoned. I didn't reply. The calls started coming more frequently after that. Voicemails at first, then texts, then late-night missed calls. I made a mistake. I didn't think you'd really leave. I didn't know how much you were holding everything together. That one hurt the most, not because it was cruel, because it was honest. He hadn't valued me as a partner. He'd valued me as a stabilizer. 2 weeks after the repossession, he showed up at my apartment, unannounced. I opened the door and barely recognized him. He looked thinner, tired, like someone who'd lost gravity. Avery, he said, eyes red. Please, I just need to talk. I let him in. He sat on the couch, staring at the floor. Maya left, he said quietly. I know. She said she needs someone who can support her right now, emotionally, financially. She said love shouldn't feel like survival mode. I said nothing. I think I ruined everything, he whispered. I finally looked at him. No, I said, you revealed it. He looked up confused. You didn't ruin your life, I continued. You just found out what it looks like without me holding it up. Tears rolled down his face. Can we try again? He asked. I understand now. I was selfish. I took you for granted. I studied him. Not the man I fell in love with. The man he became when things fell apart. You don't miss me, I said. You miss the version of your life that existed because of me. He flinched. I loved you, he said. I know, I replied, but you loved what I provided more. He left shortly after. And when the door closed behind him, something inside me finally did too. Not angrily, not dramatically, just completely. The silence afterward was unfamiliar. Not the tense silence of two people avoiding a fight. Not the heavy silence of unresolved love. This was clean. Ethan stopped calling after that night. Or maybe I stopped answering so completely that even hope learned to dial somewhere else. I moved out of the apartment we once shared, found a one-bedroom downtown with a small balcony and a dishwasher that actually worked. It felt absurdly luxurious, like adulthood without apologies. The first night there, I slept straight through. No pacing, no whispered phone calls, no low-grade anxiety humming beneath the surface. Just sleep. People assume endings like mine feel triumphant. They don't. They feel quiet. A month later, I heard through mutual friends that Ethan was staying with his parents, that his father kept asking when he planned to get serious, that his mother suggested he apply for something stable just for now. Maya lasted exactly 2 weeks after the equipment was repossessed. 2. According to the same friends, she told Ethan she couldn't be his emotional anchor while also chasing her own creative truth, that the situation was toxic, that she needed space from his negativity. The irony almost made me smile. She left once there was nothing left to lean on. Ethan tried once more to reach me. He showed up at my new apartment one evening, looking older than his years. His hair was shorter, his confidence worn thin. "Avery," he said at the door, "I finally see it. I finally understand." I let him in, but I didn't sit beside him. "I mistook excitement for intimacy," he said. "I thought passion meant chaos. You were steady, and I took that as boring." I nodded. "Stability doesn't sparkle," I said. "It sustains." "I don't want to lose you," he said again. This time I didn't feel anger, just clarity. "You already did," I said gently, "the moment you decided I was optional." He asked if we could rebuild, if trust could be repaired, if love deserved another chance. I told him the truth. "You didn't leave me for Maya," I said. "You left because you didn't value partnership. Maya was just the mirror that showed it." He cried, "I didn't." After he left, I enrolled in a woodworking class at the community college. Something tactile, something that existed whether anyone believed in it or not. I built a small table with uneven legs and a crooked joint. And it was mine. I thought about all the years I spent translating someone else's dreams into solvency, all the ways love became logistics, all the times I mistook responsibility for devotion. Here's the truth people don't like hearing. Support is not love when it's expected. Sacrifice is not romance when it's one-sided. And being understood creatively means nothing if you're not respected practically. I don't hate Ethan. I hope he learns how to build something real, something that doesn't require borrowing someone else's stability. And I'm grateful this ended before kids, before property, before love became a legal trap instead of an emotional one. The last message Ethan ever sent me said, "I finally see how much you did for me." I didn't reply, because understanding someone's value after they're gone doesn't restore it. It just explains the loss.